it can be so hot. It blows my mind a little. In this video, this is my current foundation routine. I do love trying all kinds of different foundations. This is more of a medium coverage to kind of full coverage foundation routine. This is going to be different layers that make sure my foundation stays well. It doesn't, what am I trying to say? Separate? I don't fucking know. This is going to be the different layers that I do to make sure my what am I trying to fucking say? Even though I am going to do many different layers, it's not so full coverage that your skin doesn't at least a little bit show through. That's the kind of coverage that I like the most, and I also like a full coverage that doesn't feel like it's so caked on. That is so important to me, that it's not super cakey. It feels like my skin still. I feel like my skin is still being able to breathe. My routine changes quite a bit because I always like to experiment with what else is kind of on the market for the time being, so this is just currently my favorite that I have found. So I always start by prepping my face, usually with the MAC Fix. Every time I spray my face, no matter what, I do this look that my cat does too. Whenever I spray it, it's like, it's the, oh god, please don't get in my eyes, I hate this face. So that's what I do every time. I always spray it on very generously because it's amazing and smells wonderful and is great for your skin, so I like it a lot. Once that has dried a little bit, I use a primer. I would say my face is usually pretty dry and my nose can be generally oily. Today I'm going to be using the Hourglass Mineral Veil Primer. Love the way it feels on my skin. It feels so soft and nice, so I love this one. This is the one that I found to be more of my favorite right now. It looked like I had a booger in my nose. I hope I haven't had a booger this whole time. Just hanging out. Spray a little on my hand and just put, not spray, pump. Whatever the wordage is. I don't fucking know. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I bring it down onto my chin and my neck a little bit and just rub it all around with my hands. I'll usually let that set for a couple minutes just to really soak into my skin. First layer I always start with is my RCMA VK Palette, which you know is very dirty from my previous video. I usually take these first two shades, they're the lightest. I usually use just a palette knife to get some off. I put it onto my hand and I'll warm it up with my finger just by mixing it around. The more you warm it up, the creamier it gets, and you really don't need much because it's so pigmented. And then I just start putting it on my face. I use this amazing Tarte brush. I just got it from Sephora. It's awesome because it's so dense, and that's definitely what I need with this foundation, because this foundation is great because it really does work as like a second skin. And it was so hard for me looking for foundations because I couldn't find one that did, you know, what I wanted it to. I wanted it to soak into my skin. And most of the foundations I found just, you know, sat on top. So really kind of packing it in with this brush, I kind of just swirl it around, really gets it into my skin. My nose has a very hard time holding foundation and product, so I usually around my nose like to be very careful. I like to really pack that shit on so it stays. Because since it's so oily, it starts to kind of separate after a while, which is extremely annoying. I pull the foundation down my neck a little bit just so I blend. After I feel that this first layer is sufficient enough, I take a tiny bit, a very, very small amount of my, oh god, there was an eyelash on it, ooh, Makeup Forever HD powder. And I use the same brush, and I just use the tiniest bit to, oh god, to tap it on. What this will pretty much do is just set this first layer that I've put down. Because when I've tried in the past to just put on top of this layer, it pulls up the work I just put down. So I found that at least for my skin, it's much easier to do it this way. And I'm not really fully setting my face with like a full amount of this setting powder. I'm just lightly putting it on so it sets it a little bit. After that layer is all done, I go in with my Bobbi Brown foundation stick in Alabaster. And I'm just mainly going to put it on some of the areas that I have a little bit of trouble concealing. I like my freckles, so I stay away from them. I let them do their thing. And I just lightly pack it around. I wipe off the foundation from my lips, just so my lips don't blend into my face. There. Now it looks like I actually have lips, kind of. I spray with my Fix Plus again. Make sure to do the cat face. Whenever I do that step, almost kind of wets the makeup very lightly just to blend with my Beauty Blender now when I go in with my Beauty Blender and my concealer. This is my absolute holy grail concealer forever. I'm pretty sure I have 5 or 6 of these just sitting around waiting to be used, but every time I order from Sephora or I go in, if they have my color, which is Chantilly, I snatch that shit up real quick. It is so creamy, it's so amazing, it's very, I wouldn't say it's thick because it's not, it's so just perfect. I don't even know the words to say for it, but it's from NARS. I don't know if I already said that. For this step, this is technically my kind of concealer and highlight all in one because it obviously is so light. So it works out pretty well for me to do it that way. I don't have quite as much pink as in my skin, and this is very yellow. It's just awesome, and it's super light. I think it's their palest shade. And so I love it. I love that it's not just super pink. It has a lot of yellow to it. So it helps to kind of balance out and mellow out my skin. And why I'm doing my concealer in the areas that I am is because you do want to manipulate light. What you're doing is you want the highest points of your face to be the lightest. So technically my forehead would be the lightest, right down my nose, right under my eyes, my chin. Everything else would kind of more be your skin tone, and then you'd have your contour after. And if you're interested in knowing how I contour, I do have a video as well. I'm going to take my damp Beauty Blender and I'm just going to lightly tap that. Right. And actually before I start blending, I'm going to spray the Fix one more time, very lightly, and start blending. Notice with my Beauty Blender, I'm not swiping, I'm just tapping it very lightly to blend it. I always start with the edges first and start blending them out and working my way inwards. I'm very careful around my nose because since it's so oily, sometimes the product doesn't really settle in the way it should. And so I'm very, very, very light around my nose just to make sure I don't pull any off. I know there are cheaper alternatives if you don't want to spend $20 on a sponge. I know the Real Technique sponge is supposed to be really awesome, so that is also a good alternative if you're not looking for this. I usually try to overblend because I do not want any lines to show whatsoever. So, you know, take your time with this step. Really look through, make sure that everything blends very well, look straight at your mirror, kind of step back for a moment. I've said that on my contour video as well, and I pretty much mean it for any kind of makeup you do. Face painting, you know, beauty makeup, foundation, whatever you're doing, to step back and really look at your face. I'm going to include one more step in my tutorial, which isn't obviously for everyone, but it is something that I do in my step of foundation. So I get a lot of questions about this right here, and that used to be a Monroe piercing. I had to take it out for work at one point, but I loved it so much. So while I was getting tattooed, oh my god, I had a hair in my mouth that whole time. While I was getting tattooed, I had my tattoo artist just put a little bit of ink in it. It was a lot darker, but over the years it's just faded quite a bit, so I always put a little tiny bit of makeup in it. I take a small liner brush, and right now I'm using the Morphe 250-1. I get the tiniest bit of Dipbrow because you don't need much. After that's dry and everything's kind of sat on my face for a few minutes, I go back in with the Makeup Forever HD powder. What these setting powders will do is just hold your makeup, and they really do give you a soft finish. Tap a little on my brush, and I use the same Tarte brush, and I just pack it on top. Doing all those steps really just helps to hold all of my makeup together. I love the look of a full coverage foundation, but I hate the feel of feeling like my face is super cakey. And so this has been my routine that I've fallen in love with, and I love it so much. And that's it. That's my whole foundation routine. I would go on to do my normal makeup, you know, my normal beauty makeup for the day, and I would at the end set with the Urban Decay All-Nighter Setting Spray. I love that as well because it's just an extra thing to really hold everything together. I also have some exciting news. I'm going to be at IMATS this next week coming up. So I'm doing a little bit of a meetup with a couple of my friends. You'll see who, with details to follow. But if you don't have tickets to IMATS, that's okay because it's going to be outside of IMATS. A little bit of a secret right now. So excited for IMATS LA. This is my first IMATS. I've never been before. I did go to Fame Expo and that was a lot of fun, but I've heard so many stories that IMATS is way more intense and huge, and I did actually announce on my Instagram on Friday that I will be working for Krylon on Sunday, so definitely come check me out. I'm going to be doing a demo. Please do come say hi. I love talking to people and I love meeting you guys. Hearing that my work can inspire you or that you support my work absolutely means the world to me. And I would love to talk to you guys and meet you. So hopefully you can make it to the meet and greet as well. You guys help me constantly to be able to continue to push myself and post my work, even when I get discouraged or I feel kind of insecure about something I've done. You know, you guys support me and love me and push me to do it anyways, and I would never be able to repay you guys for that. It's such an overwhelming feeling to have this constant support behind you all the time. And I'm so thankful for it. So I would love to meet all of you so much. I'll give you a hug. 10 hugs. 20 hugs. 20. 20's good. So a little more than 20 is a little too much.